For the theme that is energy storage, I believe there are four things that we need to take care of it when we talk about sustainability in energy storage.
Sustainability is a term which is used very widely, at times loosely.
It was to build a hardware company from India, a company which was built on some fundamental research and science, and very similar to IIT. Like, for example, whatever we're hearing in Soumalya, like you start something like lab and scale it up.
Seams which need to be maintained between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. For that, we offer a finishing material of +4 or +5 degrees Celsius, right, which prevents the cold shock as well as the heat shock both, right.
The next theme that we have for today is energy storage. I request the anchor, Mr. Prabhjot Kaur from Esmito, the investor, Mr. Ankit, kedia from Capital A, the star startups, Mr. Kartik, Hajela from Log9 Materials, Mr. Soumalya, Mukherjee from Tan 90 Thermal to come on stage, please. I also request you all to sit in the same order, anchor on the left, then the investor, and then the star startups respectively. I also request you all to speak in the same order. Thank you.
Very, very good morning to everyone. Greetings to everyone. I'm Prabhjot from Esmito Solutions, co-founder. Prior to Esmito, I was working here, so it's feeling very nostalgic coming back to your organization. So worked here for about 7 years as the CEO and co-founder, actually founder of Center for Battery Engineering and Electric Vehicles, and had also worked as the director of Telecom Center of Excellence here at IIT Madras. Developed few technologies, licensed that, and the whole experience of mine has been into sustainability, developing products that make a difference. Worked very closely with Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala, Professor Bhaskar, and many others. For the theme that is energy storage, I believe there are four things that we need to take care of it when we talk about sustainability in energy storage. The first is the materials. So focus on the materials for the energy storage is very, very important. We all know lithium and the kind of the mining that we go in to get nickel, manganese, cobalt, the African state that we have been hearing about, and the lack of the materials that we have in the country. So if we have to focus on that, we have to focus on newer materials, aluminium air or sodium ion, many other things. So the materials become the first thing to talk about. Second part is the engineering systems. So the whole of the engineering that we have been talking about since the morning also, we have talked about higher efficiencies, we have talked about stability, we have talked about how to bring in better systems to take care of newer technologies that bring an impact, remote monitoring, and allied applications along. Third part that is important is the recyclability, which is kind of a multidisciplinary in nature, and we see that when we talk about recyclability, for sustainability, of course, that is very, very important, both from the materials point of view that are used for making energy storage, and also from the allied components that are used, all types of metal, electrode materials, graphite, all those are also very important standpoint. The fourth, which is very critical, is the policy, regulations, funds. Policy and regulations, we see that largely not only internationally, but we are seeing nationally as well that lots of interest in that area for the promotion of sustainability and the climate-friendly technologies in terms of PLI schemes, FAME, and many other schemes that have been there in picture. And funding, of course, is an important part, and that's what brings to our whole panel. A very good panel that we have here today on the stage, which talks about energy storage, which have been moving into that direction to take the energy storage towards sustainability in the country. As I just mentioned, that funds play a very, very important role. We have Ankit from Capital A, and would like to start with him to represent a thesis on how they are supporting climate-friendly technologies, products, and sustainability. So we'll start with you, Ankit.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ankit Kedia. I'm the founder and lead investor at Capital A. Capital A is, am I audible? Capital A is an early stage venture capital firm based out of Bangalore. And we invest in early stage startups in climate, fintech, and any other technology enabled businesses, but largely in climate. We have certain themes and subsectors within climate that we invest in. We, at the beginning of when we inducted the fund, at that time, we clearly chose two themes. One was fintech and the other one was climate. And the reason we chose fintech was it's predictable. A lot of work has been done in the last 1 decade, and we said that let's ride on those learnings and build a thesis around fintech. With climate, everything was just about to get started when we, when we were starting off in 2021. And while there was a lot of action around EV and mobility, themes like renewable energy, battery recycling, cell chemistry, BMS, those were some sectors which still needed a lot of work. Thankfully, a lot of work has already been done in that sector in the last 2 years, and I think the next 5 years is poised to show some enormous amount of action there. In terms of EV and mobility, we said that our $30 million fund, which invests up to $500,000 in the startup, is perhaps not the right fit for OEMs. But are there themes around OEMs that we can support? So the investments that we have done are all ancillaries of the EV and mobility industry. So powertrain, simulation technology, or one very interesting company where that company enables battery swapping, a company called ChargeUp. So that's another company which we invested in. Charging infrastructure, we've been looking at it selectively. Moving away from EV and mobility, we have investments in renewable energy with solar financing, and a company called Credit Fair, which largely lends to rooftop solar, and another deep tech company which we've invested in, a company called Ellipsol, which is working towards increasing efficiency of solar PVs. So in every aspect, we just try to look for the problem statement as usual. But the challenge from an investor point of view is any deep tech company which starts with hardware is relatively, it starts out slow. The PMF is much slower because given that's a hardware company, and there are a lot of things surrounding a particular pilot, dependency on vendors, external agencies, designers, takes time. At the same time, the gratification at the end of a successful pilot is very, it's very fulfilling. So that's been our thesis so far. We are also looking at sustainable packaging materials very seriously. We have an investment in a company called Bamboo. Now, it's a very sustainability is a term which is used very widely, at times loosely, and especially with packaging, when people say that we are doing biodegradable packaging, it becomes extremely controversial to classify whether one particular packaging material is biodegradable or compostable or recyclable. These are all terms that are used to define sustainability. I think one has to really get into the depth to understand that. I hope that gives a flavor of our investment thesis.
Sure, thank you, Ankit. We at Esmito have been focused on developing products around swapping technology. So the whole integration have been around swapping, so using, engineering focused, products focused, not on the materials largely. We have Kartik, Log9, who have been focused on materials and using batteries which are also fast charge. So swapping versus fast charging has always been a debate, but not going into that. Would request Kartik to introduce himself and also take up the questions that have been already laid out.
Thanks for that. Yeah, I think let's not. So, hi everyone, I'm Kartik and I'm co-founder of Log9. Log9 fundamentally is a materials and a research startup. We were born out of IIT Roorkee in 2015, and the idea was to build a hardware company from India, a company which was built on some fundamental research in science and very similar to IITM. Like, for example, whatever we're hearing since morning, that you start something at lab and scale it up. So we were in Roorkee, we used to leverage the labs in Roorkee. We were incubated in our college itself. From there, we moved to Bangalore, did a partnership with IISc, and were using their labs to further work on different materials. At that point, 2017, it was still vague, what do we have to work on, because materials can be used for anything or everything. So we still were not able to find a utopian application, and that's when energy was right on the cusp, and we said, okay, energy would be an interesting market to look at. 2018, we started working on energy, and long story short, today we're one of the biggest, I think, cell to battery tech player in India, wherein we have the biggest cell line currently in India, which is a 50 megawatt hour line. Still, to call it the biggest is a very sad statement for the country altogether, because when you see China and America and Europe being at gigawatt hour scale, still 50 megawatt hour being called biggest is something that all of us jointly have to solve for. But yeah, it's a starting stage, and we work on chemistries which are meant for high temperature or climates, tropical climates like India and that belt altogether. So lithium, but either titanium chemistries or iron phosphate, and even when we look at those chemistries, we look at higher C rates. When I say higher C rates, faster charging, long cycle life, solving it for the type of applications that we're targeting, which was first mobility and now stationary as well. So today we heard a lot about change management. So when we entered the market with the fast charging tech and battery packs, etc., we realized that there is still the traction needs to come in. There needs to be some shift in terms of people's use of EVs altogether in the commercial space. So that's when we also floated one of our subsidiaries, which is a mobility firm which manages the ecosystem to help fleet companies, various logistic companies go electric. And that's how we were able to scale up pretty fast in the last 2 years. The idea is to continue scaling lithium technology currently, because we feel the more we keep on contemplating that what will work at scale, the more we lose time. Different technology will come for sure, sodium will come. The day it comes, it will be adapted on the same process lines that people have put up or are putting up. So I think rather than waiting for something like a sodium to come in, it's the idea should be to rapidly scale up whatever technologies are available so as to target climate change. So that's where we are.
Some questions for you.
So specific pain point. Currently, the idea is that there is no cell production at scale currently in India. That's one. Okay, even if I put the nationalistic view out of it, good quality control on cells to make a good battery pack, there is a big arbitrage from where you import cells. So I think the first fundamental problem to solve is to bring mass scale manufacturing at a giga scale to India, and which ideally requires its a scale up from 1 megawatt hour to 50 to 500 to a gigawatt hour. So currently we have done the journey from 1 to 50, and the next is a direct 500 megawatt hour or a gigawatt hour scale. So fundamentally bringing cell chemistries inside India which are meant for the Indian climate and manufacturing it in India. Because once you start doing it, there's a lot of talent that is also needed to make this. It's not that easy that you simply bring in a tech, maybe in a JV structure or tie up with a company globally and try putting up a cell line in India. It's a very different talent pool that people need, and that talent pool, because I think of the last 15 years shift towards software overall in engineering colleges, I think there is, we're at a duck curve, if I call it, in terms of talent for hardware, especially materials and chemicals. So I think by being a sandbox altogether ourselves, by putting in the first cell line and putting it at a relatively bigger scale, gives a lot of platform for people in India to start pursuing this. So that's one. Secondly, the chemistries that we work for are majorly meant for high climates, high temperature climates, etc. And fast charge, which solves for cross utilization of an asset in a day. So if you look at commercial EVs, a commercial EV in logistics is supposed to be as profitable as the number of kilometers it runs. 2 years back, when there was no fast charge, the downtime used to contribute to a lot of losses in the whole operations of these logistic businesses. That's what we solve. Secondly, commercial EV is a very rugged use case, and hence it's a very so it needs high cycle life in batteries so that your TCO works out. Your total cost of ownership has to work out across the life of the battery pack. Otherwise, it's still just a sustainability move and doesn't make an economic sense. That's what we work on. We work on chemistries which can stay at least at par, if not higher. But we focus on higher than vehicle life in terms of the battery life, so that you can also play around residual value of the batteries. What this helps you with is the moment you start solving for these pieces, you start solving for financing, you start solving for lesser EMIs owing to the residual value captured inside your battery pack. We were the first companies to start offering residual value financing on our battery powered vehicles altogether. So that's all because of the confidence on the tech and the chemistry that we've put forward. Second, can you describe a specific use case where, okay, so this is something that is happening currently. So apart from mobility, we also look at stationary, which is though very underwhelming in front of the complete mobility market, but it still is interesting for sure. Because I feel in the next 3 to 5 years, for battery players or cell players, it will be a bigger market than mobility maybe. What maybe China has also seen. So what we're looking at is, and we have identified certain locations with an EPC company where there's no grid at all, neither there's no mobility. These are rural locations completely at places where there's no reach. Now, what we realize, energy is definitely a basic amenity for anyone, right? So that's where we are deploying microgrids with batteries, with mobility solutions all together. And what the theory says is that the moment you start doing it, you start providing them mobility and energy, the social impact is pretty big for that community. So we've identified certain villages of that sort, wherein there is a sundry shop at the center, which ideally today runs a diesel genset for 6 hours to keep its freezer running. And we're using that as a central hub for that village to power mobility, as well as a microgrid application to give electricity to the houses nearby as well. So that's a type of use case which I feel has a mass sustainability impact, because if you see economically also, there's a study that the amount of capex that goes into extending your grid transmission lines versus setting up a microgrid turns out to be cheaper at times. So I think that's the whole thesis there. The third, what are the emerging high potential opportunities? I think grid ancillary services will be a big opportunity going down the line. It's coming up. If we see the latest policy and the latest push that the government has given on the VGF, on the viability gap, that funding that they're doing for best systems in grid, that was inevitable, because if you're looking at a country wherein you want renewable to be pushed left and right, you definitely need storage systems to balance the load. So either you have to do it by putting time of day tariffs, which are very disproportionate for end consumers, which is difficult to happen here, and hence it needs to be a subsidized approach first, so that companies start investing into making those containerized big systems. So for example, for someone like us, we're at an EV battery scale or maybe a microgrid sort of scale, but to invest into a 2 megawatt or 20-foot container, it's a different product altogether. So it definitely needs a baseline pull from somewhere. So what we feel is the way the government has pushed that, point one, the VGF, and the second, what they've pushed in Maharashtra, the TOD tariff that they've started, wherein for commercial and factories, they've increased the tariff for a particular time period. That gives a lot of opportunity for companies to now start looking at setting up bigger battery storage systems for grid ancillary service, and we definitely feel there'll be a pull from discoms to start putting it up.
Thank you, Kartik. I'll have some questions for you and Ankit, but let's hear from TAN90 what they do, and certain questions as well, which are predefined questions, and then we'll come to our interactive session as well. I know maybe you have to keep the mic closer. It's on.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. So this is my name is Rajnikant Rai. I'm a co-founder of 1090. So we at 1090, we are a thermal management company. So we at 1090 manufactures, research and develop the phase change material. The ability of this phase change material is that it can store and release a large amount of energy at a specific temperature. So, since it can store the energy and release the energy at a specific temperature, it can be used in transportation of the perishable products like food products, pharma products at their specific desired temperature range. Right? So let's say if you have to transport the ice cream, the temperature which has to be maintained while transportation need to be around -20 to -15 degrees Celsius to prevent the ice cream becoming milkshake basically. So in that range we have a PCM or phase change material of -18 to -24 degrees Celsius. Based on the transit time we offer the phase change materials. Right? And then there is a, if you have to transport, let's say, vaccines which need to be maintained between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. For that, we offer a phase change material of +4 or +5 degrees Celsius, right, which prevents the cold shock as well as the heat shock both, right. So basically, we are kind of simplifying the supply chain problems to the, as of now, for the cold chain industries. We project ourselves as a thermal management company because we are not only solving the problem of the cold chain industry, but we have our product which solves the problem of thermal management in the data centers, in the smart building applications, in EV battery management. So coming back to the questions, what is the specific pain point here? So basically, as of now, we are solving the supply chain problems in the cold chain industry through our phase change materials by transporting or storing the perishable products at their right temperatures. Are there any specific innovation you are planning that could, right? So currently since we are solving the supply chain problems, we are working on a unique model which we call it as a cooling as a service, right? So in this model, what we do, we freeze our phase change material and give these ready-to-use material to the businesses so that they focus only on their supply chain, not on the cold chain, and they can scale easily. They can, their user will get a good response, good product when it is getting delivered. So what we're trying to do here with our cash model, we are not only reducing the operational cost, we are kind of trying to increase the the revenue of the company which is using our model. And we are trying to do this, do it by by enabling them to scale rapidly. So emerging high potential opportunities. Right. So our solutions right now, it is solving the cold chain industry, and however this phase change material, since I told you that it has a large potential of storing the energy at a particular temperature, it can be used even in a smart building applications, since we know that in the commercial buildings like government infrastructures or in the corporate industries, to maintain the comfortable temperature in the buildings, lots and lots of energy is being consumed, right? But since these materials have immense potential or the direct use in reducing those, the consumption of the energy by reducing the load on the air conditions. However, these materials also have a potential on maintaining the EV thermal battery management basically. So the Kartik would agree to me that if EV batteries are operating or getting charged at right temperature, they will perform better, their life will be better, right? So these materials can be coupled with the EV batteries to enhance their life as well as their performances.
Thanks, Rajni. That was a good insight. I mean, phase change materials are making a good contribution into maintaining the temperatures across different applications. As you have touched upon the point, continuing from your point on the EV batteries, and especially if the session is on the energy storage. So, onto the batteries, have you seen the phase change materials making a difference? And like you said, that they do make a difference. But do we have any quantification that you could do, that what is the difference that they make? That is one. Second, when we use these phase change materials, we have been using the phase change materials quite extensively, because for swappable batteries, when we are producing, they play a very important role, more so as compared to the fixed batteries. When we use them into these swappable applications, because the repetition is very fast of the charge and the discharge, and the swapping factor is high, we see that these materials help. But if any quantification is there, that is one. And second part, while we look at such materials, we are also worried about that, what about the thermal isolation, insulation, and the electrical properties that they need to have? So any comments on that?
So, having this quantitative value, as of now, this is a very nascent industry where this PCM technology is being used or being coupled with the electric batteries. So everything is into the, as of now, everything is into the testing phase at the lab phase. So right now there is no quantitative data to claim that we can, but we can reduce, let's say, 50% or we can increase the 50% of efficiency, or we can decrease 30% of the cost, or increase the life. So basically this is a very nascent industry and very new. So still we are working on it, and hopefully everything will turn out to be positive.
Sure. Ankit, a question for you. We have all been talking about energy storage recently at different forums, right? The lead acid batteries were there prevalent for, let's say, at least about 7 decades. Lead acid batteries. The lead acid batteries were already there in place for about 7 decades. So if we talk about that, such large adoption of lead acid batteries had already happened. But why is it now that we are talking and emphasizing a lot on energy storages? What has given a kick to this sector? And why are we talking about shifting to the lithium-ion batteries or alternate sources of energy to bring to bring them into the picture for the energy storage?
I think I'll just use the analogy of electric vehicles. If you dive into the history of electric vehicles, that has, I think, one of the first versions of electric vehicle came way back when car was even invented, right, or put together. So over the years, I think they realized what was scalable, what was with economies of scale, whatever they were able to do, they've done that with ICE vehicles. And similarly, I think what happens is, with any industry, someone has to lead one particular segment of an industry, and that's what happened with lead. There is no particular reason why, at least in my view, that...
Yeah, I think it was fundamentally technology itself. If you look at EV 7, 8 years, 10 years, Tesla being a leader, and when you are powering an EV, the amount of power that you need, the C rates for lead acid is pretty low. So you're at 0.25 C, 0.2 C. That means to power your vehicle to get a decent acceleration, the amount of batteries that you need to put inside the vehicle volumetrically didn't make sense. That gave a lot of, so though lithium is an old technology, but it was EV which gave it the fundamental platform to be adopted because of a high power chemistry. All of us remember still the Yo bikes, right, which were on lead acid. The amount of space they used to take and still could only get a 20 to 30 kmph sort of speed was where the technology became obsolete and gave a fundamental, I think, platform for lithium to come in, which also then, because of the cycle life being an advantage over lead acid, because you're looking at 5 years, 10 years being vehicle lives, and lead acid having a 2 to 3 year life period, was where the complete technology tip-off happened.
Sure. I agree with that. And a very good example that we have seen in India in terms of EV, where lead acid was used with the Reva, Chetan Mani's car, right? So the first car that was developed in India with the lead acid batteries technology, and was also adopted not only in India at a limited scale, but largely in Europe also we had seen many Revas getting adopted. But my question was, I'm sorry, I was not very clear, was not really on the electric vehicle side, where we see that lithium being lighter, the lightest element in the table, right? So being that, and then packaging of the high density that was possible, giving you longer life, that is the easiest shift or the easier adoption, I would say the reasons for the electrification to happen. But more so on the energy storage for grid segment, where we say that there is redundancies to be built, where the weight, the energy densities, the volumetric densities do not play a very, very significant role, right? So those areas also we are seeing that now are getting picked and pushed as well. So what are the reasons for those areas where it is immaterial for the volume or the energy densities to be picked up? And largely, Kartik, like you have been working and you have introduced your batteries as well into the energy storage segment, grid as well, that you have started to work in. Any light that you would like to throw on that?
So I think in stationary storage, I think the fundamental is still economics, why lithium still makes sense relatively more than lead acid, because lead acid today is at 7,000 to 7,500 rupees per kilowatt hour almost if you go for a VRLA. Lithium at a grid scale, if you start putting at, you can somehow optimize it to 17 to 18K per kilowatt hour, which is roughly 2.2x, but then your life cycle delta that you get is 4 to 5x, plus no O&M. You don't need to go and top it up.
So basically the TCO part.
It's a TCO. It's a pure maths. It's pure economics which made. Otherwise, it was, to be honest, still, if you talk about long duration storage, I still question lithium for sure. VRL might, but I think VRL is still, because of the cycle life limitation, in any TCO would be tipped off. I think zinc is much better from that perspective. So it's a primary TCO problem. Why VRL, it doesn't make sense. For otherwise, it was a solved problem already. I think there was no point in. Yeah.
And maybe, Aniket, if you can associate it with the angle on the climate focus that right now we are bringing.
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear you very well. I think the PAs over here are not.
Okay. So the angle of the climate awareness that we are bringing now, that is giving a good push to the cleaner technologies. So a global perspective.
On the which technologies?
A global perspective on the awareness around clean technologies.
Clean technology. I think in the last 2 years, definitely events like this and a lot of other platforms have definitely increased the awareness of clean technology. However, it's still superficial at many levels. What really is happening is a lot of media is suddenly started to cover areas of clean technology, and a lot of big folks from the business community, including the Adanis and the Reliances, are making some real strong strides into the industry, which is leading or forcing people to learn about clean technologies, whether it's hydrogen or green ammonia or other forms of clean energy. But I think it's a long way to go. We're just scratching the surface. But platforms like these, events like these, also a lot of stuff is happening globally. Awareness is a continuous process and has to start in institutes like these.
Okay, thank you. I think that due to the paucity of time, we are getting an alert to wind it up. So we'll just summarize it before we get up from the stage. Climate tech technologies, products, services in any domain. I mean, it is now different applications and different domains that we are seeing that we have to move to that. Because without sustainability, now there's no future. We have seen for about a century of technology development that we have seen as a human mankind, that if we have to move ahead and we have to leave a good nature for our next generations, we have to work towards sustainability with cleaner technologies, and technologies to resolve and solve the problems that we are encountering for pollution, for many other issues that are happening. And wherever we are seeing, it is the economies, it's the advanced, economics, it's the advanced technologies that are bringing a change. And with that, would sum up this session. Thank you all for hearing us. Thank you to the wonderful panelists for their time and their suggestions as well. Thank you all.
I request you all to stand up for group photograph.